However, what you might discover is that on a day such as today, the film museum appears to be closed. Perhaps we've arrived a little bit early and the museum's just getting going, and perhaps the first workers have arrived, or starting to arrive. I'm curious what's inside these big rusted container buildings. But not curious enough to hang around for too long. He says wandering into a children's park. I wonder what that building is over there. It's open. The door's open. And that usually means that a cat would stray in, and so would a stray tourist like me. So I might have a little look to see what's on view in this building. There's some doors open there, but blinds are down, so no access or visibility on the side of the building. Classy Maestrid. The Tallinn stables. No, the Tallinn stables. Part of the Estonian History Museum. Stables that belong to the summer manor complex at MAARJAMAE were originally built for the horses of a sugar factory in the early 1800s. At the time, the place was called Strijdberg, Quarrel or Battle Hill. The merchant Johann Gottlieb Clemets purchased the plot of land in August 1811, and under his direction, the sugar factory and its warehouses, offices and residential buildings were constructed. There is known to have been a smithy, a lime-burning oven, a vaulted ice cellar, and the stone stable building constructed in 1821. The latter, among other structures, still survives today. There was a pond at the time behind the stables from which water was directed to the factory. The property was surrounded by a limestone wall more than 4 meters high. Later, the fire-damaged factory was purchased by Count Anatoly Orlov Davidov of St. Petersburg, and a grand palace was built. In 1874, Strijdberg became a summer manor named Marienberg. The stairs leading to the palace, which used to reach all the way to the seashore, blimey, that's quite a stretch, are also from that period. The Count's family would summer in Tallinn, and the stables would house horses as well as automobiles. When the flight school of the Estonian Republic's army moved into the manor in 1937, the stables became a classroom and garage. There were 2 special classes for motor and aircraft construction, which included a partially dismantled aeroplane. The building also had room for a school bus and a truck. During World War II, the manor fell into the hands of occupation forces. During the German occupation, the stables were allegedly used to house prisoners of war. After the war, it was used for storage. The stables were reopened as a multi-purpose exhibition and educational space for the Estonian History Museum on the 3rd of December 2014. Now, where's that old car? That's what I'm wondering. You'll remember the Rotomani industrial district of Tallinn, which has cropped up a couple of times in videos that I've made. Well, the industrialist apparently owned this location. I say location because I hesitate to say he owned the palace, particularly as we see it in its current form, and these stables, because I'm not sure exactly when he was around and laid claim to ownership of the site. I'm not sure if it was straight after that fire, which was mentioned back there, or if it was before the fire. But obviously it's taken on different forms through history. And I didn't realise that this location was so very close to the Soviet War Memorial here. Here's another one of the historic buildings on the site. I can't make out exactly what its former purpose was, but it's not just about the stables, the palace, and that little Soviet statue park, and nor is it about this handsome children's park version of a Viking longboat. Actually, considering it's just lumped here in a children's park and might be subject to not only all kinds of weather but also all kinds of damage, this little boat's in pretty good shape, eh? I would say so. A representation of a Viking longboat. I've seen a sheep in need of a shave, but I've not seen a man in need, not in such dire need of a shave, a haircut, and a beard trim. It's all got a bit out of control, hasn't it? He's having to use his hand to support his hair by the seam of things. Not sure what the artist is trying to convey with that image. Nor with this one. Nor the one behind. But they're different. That's for certain. And different is good usually, isn't it? We all have our philosophy on what we're prepared to spend money on, don't we? And it might seem to some people that I don't spend much money on anything. And I like to think that's true, to be honest, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to live like this. But there is so much that's available for absolutely no cost whatsoever that it seems foolhardy to not take advantage of that. A beautiful landscape, beautiful building exterior. They're for free, they cost nothing to admire. So why not take the opportunity to walk around a park, enjoy the sculpture that might be on view. Expectation is low, rather than spending money on every attraction we come across, and then perhaps feeling a little bit let down and seeing at the end of the trip just how much we spent on admission fees. We might have some regrets. Of course, if I was a student of film, I would hang around until that film studio museum complex with all its interesting looking buildings was actually open. But that's not my thing. And as this, I'm going to call it something not rude exactly, but as this slightly pretentious palace, sorry, forgive me for saying that, but yeah, as this slightly faux 19th century construction of a palace doesn't genuinely have a great depth of history attached to it compared to other palaces and castles that might be on view, both in the Baltics and elsewhere. I think on a personal level, from my point of view, I can happily keep I think the admission fee is €12. I can keep that €12 in my pocket for another day. Or, let's face it, depending on how you want to look at these things, that €12 is in credit for when I want to spend something even more expensive in terms of admission to somewhere I'm really far more keen on visiting. I can think to myself, well, you know what, you had a really nice day, a cracking morning, walking to and walking around the park surrounding the MAARJAMAE loss, and it costs you nothing. So it's almost like €12 in the bank. And I don't know if you can pick up the detail there. We have swans. Now I've had time to reflect on the trip to MAARJAMAE Palace, the search for MAARJAMAE Palace. I think there are a few things to be learned. One is, never get your hopes up too high. Don't go looking for that wow moment. Just because a place is called a palace or a castle doesn't mean it's going to be the most incredible structure you've ever seen in your life. Even when such a building is fairly humble and modest and may not turn out to be what you expected, there can still be bonuses. You've had a good walk. You've had the pleasure of going somewhere different, seeing something new. And along the way, as was the case with MAARJAMAE Palace, I found something I didn't expect. Those Soviet-era statues, the large heads of Lenin. Curiosities like that you just don't expect, and I've learned since that some people visited MAARJAMAE Palace and they didn't go round the back. They didn't know what I was talking about. They hadn't seen those statues. Some of them didn't even know about the film museum. So yeah, if you're inquisitive enough to snoop around, you don't necessarily have to pay the big price to go into the attraction, and you'll find other things of interest. Sometimes it's, as they say, the journey is more important than the actual destination. So it was a really nice walk, and as I keep stressing, it costs nothing. It was an absolute pleasure to take that walk and to find what I did find. And, you know, another lesson to be learned is, I think sometimes we get carried away with the hype of places. Not with MAARJAMAE Palace, because it's very low-key and it isn't particularly promoted in Tallinn. But there are other locations. There's the hype, the excitement. Oh, that's why it costs that much to go in and see it. And then you go in, and what happens? You invariably have these high expectations which very often can't be met. Admittedly, sometimes they can be, which is absolutely fantastic. And those will be the true wow moments. That said, there will be other occasions when, as travellers, we can get sucked into thinking, if we pay the big price, get admission, get into that park, that museum, whatever the big draw card happens to be in that city or town. And it's no guarantee. You know, if we go looking for the big payoff every time, we're setting ourselves up for some disappointment. So, yeah, let's be grateful for the little things. Like, we got back to where we're staying in one piece. No scary experiences, no injuries. We still got the same amount of money in our pocket that we had in the morning when we left, which was curious. Admittedly, there'll be some perhaps regrets about that, the ice cream vendors didn't open up, so I never got my afternoon ice cream on the way back from MAARJAMAE Palace to where I'm staying. But joking aside, I enjoyed the search for MAARJAMAE Palace, and I'd do it all over again. Bye for now.